Good morning, I'm Gretchen Hall. It is a Wednesday, the 7th day of May, bringing you Morning Matters because your mornings matter. Let's get to the stories that matter today. 2 weeks after Pope Francis' death, the process to select a new pope begins today in the Vatican. But what can we expect from the conclave? Let's discuss this matter later in the program. President Bongbong Marcos has directed an investigation into allegedly faulty bollards at NAIA. This comes after a deadly ramming incident that raised concerns over safety measures. Comelec Task Force Baclas is preparing to file disqualification cases against at least 30 candidates. They are accused of violating guidelines on illegal campaign materials. Welcome to our program, Morning Matters, where we talk about the issues you need to know for the rest of your day. Now, first on the agenda. Today is a special day. The conclave begins today in the Vatican over 2 weeks after Pope Francis' death. 73 cardinals, including 130 cardinal electors, met for the final general congregation in the Vatican on the eve of the conclave. During the congregation, they called for a pope who can build bridges, push reforms, and lead a divided world. The Vatican also shared some images of the so-called Room of Tears, a small room next to the Sistine Chapel. This is where the new pope will don his white papal vestments for the first time. Meanwhile, the Holy See press office announced that the cardinals will be transported from Casa Santa Marta to the Apostolic Palace in choir dress for the entrance into the conclave at 3:45 p.m. today, Vatican time. As the Vatican prepares to open the conclave, all eyes will be on who will emerge as the next pope, with growing momentum for candidates from Asia and Africa. Cheryl Costin reports.
All 133 cardinals are now in the Vatican for the conclave on Wednesday, May 7th. This centuries-old process will determine the next leader of over 4 billion Catholics. Most of the cardinal electors are Europeans. But notice how they are now significantly less in number compared to the last vote held in 2013 for the late Pope Francis. Asian cardinals saw a huge uptick from 9% in 2013 to 17% this year. Mountain Butora has seen it all. He founded the Catholic Traveler, which designs and leads small group Catholic pilgrimages throughout Europe and the Holy Land. Based on his observations, there's a big chance the next pope could come from Africa or Asia, with Filipino Luis Antonio Cardinal Tagle at the forefront.
In our country,
yes.
The most popular is Cardinal Tagle.
Right.
Do you think he has a strong chance?
For sure, like if the conclave was a few years ago.
Not
I think
because I'm a Filipino.
No,
okay?
of course not. Of course not. I think several years ago he was definitely the front runner. I've heard some really good things about him the last few days. Like some of my friends who work for cardinals, they said, "Oh, he's pretty strong." So it could be.
Mountain also thinks Italian cardinals Matteo Zuppi and Pietro Parolin are strong contenders. Cardinal Parolin is the Vatican Secretary of State and currently the most senior among cardinals under the age of 80. Cardinal Zuppi, on the other hand, is known as a close associate and supporter of many of Pope Francis's initiatives, including the Vatican-China Agreement. This gave China more control over underground churches and the Vatican more hold over bishop appointments. But overall, Mountain thinks the odds are more in favor of Zuppi.
He is somebody that both sides like a lot. He's done the traditional Latin Mass. He was named Cardinal by Pope Francis.
Meantime, an Irish missionary thinks Pablo Virgilio Cardinal David can be considered a dark horse. In a press briefing in Rome, Father Shai Cullen noted David's defense of human rights victims during the Duterte war on drugs and his push to bring to civil courts cases of abuse against members of the clergy.
And we must say that our hopes for the future Pope would be, of course, that he would be even stronger than Pope Francis in demanding accountability by the bishops to stop the cover-up and actually to cleanse their diocese. They call these pedophiles their sons, and they protect them, and they help them, and they refuse to realize that these are heinous crimes against children.
Ultimately, though, it's divine intervention, the will of the Holy Spirit, that will determine who will be hailed as the next Pope. Reporting from the Vatican, I'm Cheryl Cosim. We are One News.
Let's get more details from News 5 correspondent Mon Walves, who joins us live from the Vatican. A good morning to you, Mon. What's the latest from the seat of the Holy See?
Good morning, Gretchen. Aside from the final and 12th congregation of the Cardinals yesterday, there are final preparations held inside the St. Peter's Basilica. Pinapayagan pa kasi kahapon yung mga tourists na makapasok sa loob, pero nakikita rin dito yung mga pag-aayos na, nakaset up na yung mga upuan, especially for the cardinal electors who will be seated there. At the same time, inayos na rin at nakaset up na yung mga widescreen sa labas naman dito sa may St. Peter's Square. So ito yung mga final na mangyayari na ayusin para nga sa mangyayaring misa today, 10 o'clock in the morning here at the Vatican. Gretchen.
Can you run us down the whole schedule, and will the public be able to watch the whole process of the transfer of the cardinals from St. Peter's Basilica going to the Sistine Chapel?
Yes, the activity today will start with the Mass, no? Diyan sa St. Peter's Basilica, nandito nga sa loob yung cardinal electors, at the same time yung other cardinals na hindi makakasama sa conclave. This will be open to the public. At the same time, magkakaroon din ng online viewing. At the same time, meron ding mga widescreen viewing sa may St. Peter's Basilica, sa may St. Peter's Square rather, para doon sa mga hindi makakapasok sa St. Peter's Basilica. And then afterwards, kailangan nilang bumalik nga dito sa Casa Santa Marta itong mga cardinal electors para kumain ng lunch at magkaroon ng siesta, because around 3:45 p.m. dito naman yan papasok na sila sa Apostolic Palace. Sa Apostolic Palace, para ma-idea tayo, nandito yung Papal Residence, Pauline Chapel, and yung Sistine Chapel. So from Pauline Chapel, dyan sila magkakaroon ng mga meron ding prayers, may lauds, no? At saka dyan nila kakantahin yung Veni Creator, dahil yan yung tumatawag sila ng Holy Spirit. Come Holy Spirit, Veni Creator. And then isa-isa sila, pupunta na sila dyan sa may Sistine Chapel. At dyan sa Sistine Chapel, lalakad sila, mga 200 to 300 meters lamang yung difference niyan. Dyan sila manunumpa isa-isa, no? Para nga dito sa mangyayaring conclave, yung 132 cardinals na nandito papasok sa Sistine Chapel, kasi yung isa nga ay hindi makakapunta sa loob. At after that, no, dito na sasabihin yung extra omnes, kasi isasara na yun talaga. Parang ito na rin yung hindi na makikita ng tao. After this, magsasagwa na sila ng mga internal na mga pag-uusap, kasama dyan yung discussion of the Apostolic Constitution. I-discuss ulit ito sa mga cardinal electors kung may mga tanong na kailangan linawin. Kaya nga initially, kung maalala natin, yung first voting should transpire today. Pero dahil nga sinilabas sa schedule ng Vatican na maaaring na bukas na yung voting, it's because mahaba kasi. Imagine 132 cardinals to 133 yung mag-oath isa-isa yan, no? So talagang medyo matagal kung iisipin, kung around 4:30 pa sila magsisimula after another prayer at aabutin pa ng gabi talaga. So kaya nagsabi yung Vatican sa press na the voting might begin or will begin tomorrow morning dito sa Vatican. Pero bakit nagkakaroon pa rin ng possibility na matuloy pa rin yung first voting today? Because after the Apostolic Constitution discussion, magkakaroon sila ng pag-uusap ulit. Magde-decide sila kung itutuloy na ba ang botohan today o ipagpapabukas na nga lang. And so tomorrow, yung pinaka big day for the conclave, dahil dito na magsisimula yung pinaka-voting proper. So 2 in the morning, kung sakasakaling hindi pa rin magkaroon ng Santo Papa, magkakaroon ulit ng 2 voting proper in the afternoon, Gretchen.
All right. It is a long process, but I want to talk about the general congregation that happened yesterday. We were talking about this in the morning. Anong napag-usapan nila, no? Doon sa report, sinabi, no, that the church needs a leader who can help build bridges, who can lead amidst a divided world. Does that mean to say that they might be looking for somebody who's in the middle? Hindi sobrang progressive, hindi sobrang conservative. Anong mga napag-usapan kahapon?
Yes, actually, the 12th Congregation of Cardinals or General Congregation focuses nga doon sa mga qualities ng future Pope, no? At dito nga nabanggit yung mga sinasabi mo, Gretchen, yung pagiging shepherd, bridge builder, and promoter of reform. Pero sinasabi ng mga pare na nakakausap namin dito sa Vatican, ang mga katangian na ito, most likely, same with Pope Francis, no? Ito yung mga ginawa din niya during his term. Kaya naman, yung mga qualities na hinahanap ng mga cardinal electors ngayon might be the same with Pope Francis. And this is not surprising dahil nga most of the cardinal electors joining this conclave are appointed by Pope Francis himself. Gretchen.
Well, we do know 80% no, of the total electors have been elected by Pope Francis. But speaking of that number, kanina nabanggit mo, 132 electors yung papasok. Tama ba yan? Ibig sabihin ba yung isang cardinal na ayaw ni Pope Francis na mag-participate dito, Cardinal Betsu, I'm not sure if the pronunciation is correct, no? Hindi siya papasok sa loob and he will not at all be present in the grounds of the Sistine Chapel?
Hindi nagbanggit ang Vatican ng specific name ng person or ng cardinal elector na hindi papasok nga sa Sistine Chapel. Pero ang description kasi nila, yung hindi raw makakapasok sa Sistine Chapel ay yung hindi makalakad at makaupo ng matagal. Kaya mag-i-stay na lamang siya sa Casa Marta. So ito naman yung ang mangyayari sa kanya, yung pagboto niya, may 3 cardinal electors na pupunta sa Casa Santa Marta para pangunahan yung pagboto niya, nung pag-cast niya ng vote at dadalhin ulit yon sa Sistine Chapel para naman dun sa pagbilang na ng boto, yung scrutinium na tinatawag. Gretchen.
Okay, Mon, kanina rin isa pang binalita namin ay yung kung puti ang usok na lalabas ay umaga ito at kung itim hapon. Tama ba yung pagkakaintindi namin doon?
Oo, again, tandaan natin, no, talagang every voting, there's 2 options or 2 possibilities. Is it a white smoke or a black smoke? Kapag sa first voting pa lamang, around 10:30 in the morning daw yan, inaasahan dito sa Vatican, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock dyan na hapon sa Pilipinas. No? So, kapag black smoke or kapag white smoke, automatic meron ng Santo Papa. Pero kapag nag-black smoke yan, pupunta tayo sa pangalawang voting and that will happen around 12 noon yung possible smoke release dito sa Vatican. Ganun pa rin, no? So, 4 kasi yung beses na boboto sila.
Okay. So,
yung
it doesn't
voting
mean
nila
na
per
hindi
day.
naman ibig sabihin na pagka may nahanap na sa umaga. Okay, nagkamali tayo doon. Ano?
Oo.
So, we're still waiting for both the morning and the evening, whether it's a white or a black smoke. And on a final note, what is the call for the Catholic religious there, and what can the Filipinos do to join everybody there in a big day such as today? And it is the final day that cardinals will go inside the Sistine Chapel. Ano ba ang tawag ng Simbahang Katolika?
Again, the Catholic Church or the Vatican per se asks for the people to pray for this conclave, Gretchen. And dahil nga ngayong araw, there will be a mass for everybody. This is this is a mass open for the public. So maraming inaasahan na dadalo dito sa St. Peter's Basilica plus sa St. Peter's Square para sa mga hindi makakapasok. Kasi nga, this will be a first come, first serve basis inside the Basilica. And we just don't know if there will be changes kung sakaling dahil maraming nga mga pare, maraming mga kardinal na gusto talagang, na mas ipaprioritize inside, maaaring sa labas na lamang magstay yung general public, no, or congregation na gusto maka-witness ng misa. So again, they're asking for prayers sa mangyayaring conclave dahil nga sa paglilinaw din naman nila, this is an election na hindi naman ito talaga nakabatay sa parang kandidato sa isang political campaign or political election, no? So this is something na talagang that should be guided by the Holy Spirit. That's why yun ang pinapanalangin din, especially among ng mga cardinals na nakakausap ng ilan sa mga press or media habang lumalabas dito sa Synod Hall sa Pope Paul VI, dito sa tabi lamang ng St. Peter's Basilica. Gretchen.
Alright, we join you in prayer from the Philippines and maraming salamat. Matulog ka na. It is a big day ahead for the whole of the Catholic Church. Thank you so much, Mon Gualvez, reporting to us live from the Vatican. And let's also get some insights today from Father Jerome Ceciliano, the Executive Secretary of the CBCP's Commission on Public Affairs. Good morning to you, Father.
Good morning, Gretchen. Good morning to all your televiewers.
Okay, Father Jerome, ito na, magsisimula na po yung conclave ngayong araw. Kamusta naman po ang CBCP? Ano po ang mga paghahanda dito naman po sa Pilipinas?
Unang-una ay nagpadala ng prayers sa iba't ibang mga parokya para dasalin ng mga communities yung preparation para sa paghahalal ng Santo Papa. So that's basically it. Pangalawa, syempre, nagdadasal tayo na sana nga ay maging matagumpay ang pagpipili nila ng Santo Papa in a sense that ito talaga yung kailangan ng simbahan ngayon. May kakayanan talaga na tumugon sa mga kinakaharap na suliranin o kaya issue ng mundo at ng simbahan herself. So yun po ang panalangin natin.
Padre, meron ba tayong special masses that we will hold alongside the whole conclave process apart from the prayers that you sent?
Yung pong minsan naman sa paghahalal ng Santo Papa, ginagawa po yan sa Vatican. Yung pong mga simbahan naman, kung meron silang mga particular intentions, ganun lang po. Wala namang mga elaborate na parang pagdiriwang ng misa para lang magkaroon tayo ng sinasabing paghahanda sa conclave. Kasi ang conclave naman ay basically ginagawa talaga dun sa Roma. Kaya ito dun talaga yung mga konkretong mga paghahanda na ginagawa.
Father Jerome, nag-release ng statement ang CBCP noong mga nakarang araw on Cardinal Tagle, defending him on the subject of clerical sexual abuse. Ito po ang sinabi po ninyo ay he no longer holds direct authority over any diocese in the Philippines. What does that mean and what is his position now?
Unang-una po, yun naman ang totoo. Siya na na-assign na dyan sa Vatican bilang isang curia officer. Hindi na naman siya yung leader ng isang diocese dito sa Pilipinas. Kaya wala na naman talaga siyang responsibility para tingnan kung meron mamang nangyayari mga sexual misconduct. So, ibig sabihin nito, merong responsibility talaga para tingnan kung meron nga mga pangyayaring ganyan ay yung diocesan bishop, which is no longer. Kasi nga dyan na siya bilang isang Vatican official.
Pero hindi po ba siya rin ang Archbishop Emeritus pa rin? Ibig sabihin sa pagkumpas dito sa Pilipinas at sa mga diocesan bishops ay yung authority na yun ay nasa kanya pa rin?
Hindi po ganun ang kalakaran. Kung sino po yun ngayong nakaupo bilang diocesan bishop, siya po yung may authority. Hindi po yung emeritus. Pag sinabi natin emeritus, retired na yan. Pag sinabi natin retired, wala na naman siyang, kumbaga, ay responsibility yan para sa mga gawain at ano pa mga programa doon sa diocese sa pinanggalingan niya. So lumalabas po dito na si Cardinal Tagle ay Bishop Emeritus, retired Bishop ng Archdiocese of Manila. Ang kasalukuyan pong nakaupo dito bilang obispo ng Archdiocese of Manila ay si Cardinal Joan Vincula.
Ang puna po ng isang website patungkol po dyan ay hindi raw po nakapaskil sa website ng CBCP, yung Pastoral Guidelines on Sexual Abuses and Misconduct on the clergy or by the clergy. Bakit nga po ay hindi po nakalagay sa website, no? Could we know, and sino po ang nakatoka para dyan?
Well, ang ibig sabihin po nitong guidelines na yan, guidelines yan para sa mga obispo, para sa mga pare. Hindi naman yung guidelines para sa publiko. Ang guidelines na yon ay sinusunod ng mga pare, ng mga obispo at ng mga superior. Hindi po yun ang kumbagay sinusunod ng mga ng tao sa labas. So kaya naman, hindi naman kinakailangan ipapublish mo pa. So kumbaga parang yung alituntunin na yon, alituntunin yan para sa mga tao sa simbahan, katulad ng obispo, pare, mga superior, ng mga kumbento o ng mga religious congregation. So yung mga tao naman po doon, wala namang kinalaman sa pagtupad o kaya pagsunod doon sa alituntunin na yan.
Because just to connect the dots, ang sabi dito sa kritisismo ay kung hindi niya kaya manduhan yung pagpapaskil ng mga guidelines na yan sa website, what more or what more can he give as a pastoral leader when it comes to the whole of the Catholic Church? Just to put that into context. But itong mga issue na to lumalabas ngayon na malapit na ang conclave at isa pang lumabas po rito ay yung posisyon ng kardinal tungkol sa war on drugs ng former administration. An editorial by Verifiles calls his silence deafening. What does the CBCP have to say about that?
Well, hindi po deafening yung silence kasi hindi po siya katulad siguro ng ilan na baka nilalambas ng tahasan at diretsahan yung po mga pangyayari. Pero siya po ay merong pag-a-address na ginawa patungkol dyan. In fact, sa Archdiocese of Manila, nagkaroon nga po ng isang komisyon para tugunan yung war on drugs, pati na rin yung mga drug dependents, at nakipag-ugnayan pa po yan sa ibang mga institutions. At ito po ay kinilala nga ng ibang institutions din dahil malaking bagay yung ginawa niya dito sa Archdiocese of Manila. And then going back to all this mga policies kinakailangan pang ipangalandakan, well, nasanay kasi tayo ang nasa publiko na lagi nakakapakinig ng talagang mararahas, pati kaya tahasan, diretsa, na pagpuligsa. But let's just put it this way. Hindi naman siguro ganun ang nature ng lahat ng tao. Merong ibang mga tao na mahinahon, merong ibang mga tao na alam nyo yon sa kanyang sariling pamamaraan ay may mga ginagawa para tugunan kung ano man ang mga issues, suliranin sa lipunan at hindi po pwede maging uniform ang pagtugon. Then the public maybe is expecting that a person is going to be very loud. In fact, extremely loud, lambasting, whatever it is that is evil. Diba? Ganun na siguro expectation ng public. Pero yun nga, kanya-kanyang approach yan eh. But this I'm going to say, hindi po totoo na walang ginawa. In-address po niya ng lahat ng mga yan.
Ang isa po pong lumabas kahapon din ay hindi po namin alam kung ito ay fake news, pero ang dami po kasing actually marami talagang fake news or disinformation na lumalabas against the Cardinal. If you take a look at YouTube, ang dami po mga videos by some random users, positioning him as ambitious. But this one is kind of alarming because it speaks about his possible addiction to gambling in casinos, particularly in Macau. What does the CBCP have to say?
Well, hindi po namin alam yung ganyang mga allegations. Ang point ko na lang ho, since hindi naman verified yung ganyang mga allegations, palagay ko as responsible people, hindi ko papatulan yun. Mahirap kasi na magpapatol tayo sa ganyang mga issue, maglilinger yung issue na hindi natin alam kung totoo ba. So, mahirap na rin na kumbaga impapawid pa natin yung ganyang mga allegations. Unang-una, tingnan natin yung source. Pangalawa, saan ba talaga ay ano ba yung motive, di ba? May mga ganyang dapat na mga basic na tanong tayo eh. Ngayon, nilalahad natin yan, mas napakahirap lang na parang lalo pang lalala ang sitwasyon na wala naman tayong pinanghawakan kung meron bang basehan niya, wala.
Si Cardinal Ambo, tinatawag na dark horse dito sa conclave. Are you hearing the same things from your end?
Lahat naman tayo dito pwedeng umasa na kahit na sino ay pwedeng mahalal na Santo Papa. Yung lahat naman ng cardinal electors din may chance eh. Kaya yung ganyang mga pananaw na dark horse, front runner, media creation yan ang aking paninindigan at saka public perception. So we cannot really just simply say na ganun nga ang sitwasyon dyan sa loob ng Sistine Chapel mamaya, kung sino nga pa talaga nga nila napupusuan. It's up to the cardinal electors to make their decision.
Nakakatawa lang po, no, Padre, kasi kasabay po ito ng halalan dito sa Pilipinas at kung titingnan mo, may pagkakahalintulan, yung paglabas ng mga impormasyon na maaaring nakasisira dito sa ating mga kardinal. Pero maganda po na nasasagot po yan at nagkakaboses po ang CBCP tungkol dyan. At meron nga rin po nagsasabi na maaaring talagang strong contender itong si Cardinal Tagle, kaya marami pong ganitong lumalabas. Pero natural naman din po, di ba, sa politika na silipin yung mga ganyang aspeto para makita kung anong klaseng leadership ang maaaring madala kung sakasakaling maging Santo Papa ang isa man sa kanila.
Pero ang pananaw ko ho dyan, Gretchen, sobra kung meron mang gano'n na mga pagkakalkal ng kung ano-ano, dahil parang inihahalin tulad na nga talaga natin yan sa eleksyon, sa gobyerno. Ang conclave, hindi naman yan political activity. Pero sigurong politics yan, but in itself, hindi political activity. I'm even calling it a spiritual activity. Kasi nakita niyo naman yung mga rituals, yung mga pagdadasal nila, yung mga pagtitik ng oath of secrecy, yung mga discernment, reflection, invocation of the Holy Spirit. So, hindi natin pwedeng, kumbaga, tingnan sa lente ng dapat merong ganitong mga pagdalahad ng kung ano-anong allegations. Parang hindi yata reflective ng nature ng conclave. Parang talagang ginawa na natin itong masyadong secular ang dating. So, I hope na makapag-focus tayo sa pamamagitan ng media. We refrain from even mentioning these allegations, kasi ayaan natin talaga na sila din ang magdesisyon, kung ano man yung kumbaga sacredness nito, yung sanctity nito ay anuhin natin, i-uphold natin.
Well, thank you so much for that reminder as we head on to the conclave later on this afternoon. It is the reason why these cardinals need to be insulated from the outside world as they get to the Sistine Chapel to go and vote for the next Holy See. In the meantime, maraming salamat po, Father Jerome Ceciliano, sa paglilinaw sa iba't ibang issue. Kasama po natin ngayon ang Executive Secretary of the CBCP, Commission on Public Affairs.
Thank you, Gretchen.
Don't go away. We'll be back with more stories right after the break. Good morning, I'm Gretchen Ho, and here at Morning Matters, we talk about the most pressing issues and give you the context behind the headlines. Today's top story is the conclave, and as it begins today in the Vatican, let's look back at the one that made history, not for who was chosen, but for how long it took. Here's their story. 1,006 days, or almost 3 years. That's the longest conclave in the Church's history. And it happened in Viterbo, Italy in 1268, following the death of Pope Clement IV. The French and the Italian cardinals were deeply divided in their political and religious beliefs and could not agree on a new pope. Family ties complicated the picture. Viterbo's residents, who were then shouldering the costs of hosting, grew frustrated. They locked the cardinals in a room, restricted the cardinals' food to just bread and water for a time, and even tore off a part of the roof to expose them to the elements. This gave birth to the word conclave, or under lock and key. Eventually, the pressure worked. The cardinals reached a compromise and elected Pope Gregory X. The dragged-out conclave led Pope Gregory X to establish ubi periculum in the Constitution, which meant that cardinals from then on should be locked away in seclusion to be free from political and personal interference. In contrast, the shortest conclave in 1503 took only a few hours to elect the powerful and popular Pope Julius II. He was uncontested going into the conclave, with most cardinals agreeing to elect him beforehand. Moving on to present day, the past 4 conclaves also went down quite fast, with Pope John Paul I being elected in one day, Pope John Paul II, Pope Benedict XVI, and Pope Francis elected in 2 days. With the progressives and traditionalists mulling over the future of the church and the most diverse set of cardinals yet, could this possibly be the longest conclave in modern history? And to talk about the conclave, we have Father Earl Tan of Pontificio Colegio Filipino in Rome. Father, welcome back to Morning Matters. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning, Gretchen. Good morning na rin dito sa Rome.
Hey, Father, ang daming usap-usapan tungkol sa kung gaano kabilis o sa kung gaano katagal itong conclave na ito. Pero bago natin puntahan yan, help us understand the key rituals that will go down today. There is a Mass later on at 10 a.m. in Rome, and the whole process of what's going to happen. From your point of view, anong significance ng mga mangyayari today?
Well, ipapakita o makikita natin sa simbahan na ang simbahan ay simbahan, no? Na yung makikita nating start ng conclave is a liturgical event. Makikita natin yan sa isusuot o sa suot ng mga cardinal natin mamaya o dito sa Roma, no, mamayang hapon sa pagsisimula ng conclave, no? So from the Pauline Chapel, magpo-procession sila while singing the Litany of Saints, then while wearing their choir dress, no? So hindi sila yung katulad ng nakikita natin na naka-black na sutana and merong sash na, no, pero totally in red. Ang tawag natin doon ay choir dress na sinusuot sa mga liturgical events, no? Tapos yung significance ng Litany of Saints, no, na habang nagpo-procession sila, tinatawag natin yung mga kapatid natin na nasa langit na, mga mapalad na nauna na sa atin, to pray for and with us for the start of the conclave. And then, of course, yung mga nabanggit din kanina sa balita ninyo na yung pagkanta ng Veni Creator Spiritum or Come Holy Spirit, yung Holy Spirit, God, the third person of the Blessed Trinity, na siyang nag-animate, no, sa simbahan. So those little signs, little details ay nagpapakita yung simbahan kung ano siya, na siya ay isang simbahan o tinatawag nga rin natin na katawan ni Kristo, na si Jesus ang ulo ng katawan ng simbahang ito.
At ito nga, no, sa storya ko rin kanina ay nakakatuwang makita, no, yung pinanggalingan nung conclave mismo and why they are secluded in one place. It was because of the political and personal interference in the election of a pope that happened back in Viterbo, na nagkaroon ng 3 taon na conclave nung panahon na yon kasi hindi makapag-desisyon kung sino ang susunod na Santo Papa. Tingin mo ba, sa iyong palagay, itong mga nababasa namin mula dito sa Manila ay makakaapekto dito sa pagdedesisyon ng mga kardinal? Nababasa kaya nila itong mga isyong ito, o is it mostly us, the lay?
Well, siguro, kung titignan natin, no, sa Pilipinas pa lang yan. No, kung titignan natin yung social media, kung saan-saan yan, no, kung ilang bansa meron tayo, lahat yan, baka may nilalabas. No? Kaya malaki rin yung factor na pagpasok ng mga cardinals sa conclave ay wala silang mga cellphone, no? Wala silang mga gadgets, no? Para silang nasa isang retreat na kung saan kikinig sila sa meditations na ibibigay ng kapwa nila mga kardinal o mga pare. At the same time ay yung mga pinag-usapan nila sa pre-conclave meetings ay napakahalaga, pre-conclave congregations, kasi kumbaga ginigiya sila sa sitwasyon ng simbahan, ginigiya sila na makilala yung mga kapatid nilang kardinal na boboto at maaari nilang piliin at ginigiya sila na mag-detach sa mga external na mga bagay na pwedeng maka-apekto sa kanilang pagdidesisyon sa pagpili ng nais nilang iboto sa conclave.
And yet, with all of that, in the past 4 conclaves have gone down quite fast. It happened in 2 days. Napakabilis. What is your expectation for this conclave? I mean, pag pinag-uusapan natin yung composition ng cardinals, we do know that this is the most diverse yet, with more representation from Asia, from Africa. Narinig din natin yung mga reporters saying that the general congregations were a period for these cardinals to get to know each other. Tingin nyo ba ito ay magiging mahaba o magiging mabilis?
Gretchen, the truth is we don't know. Since we'll be waiting for the results starting dito, mamaya, sa inyo, dyan, bukas, either this evening here in Rome. But, well, we can simply hope in God na it won't last long, Since the cardinals were given the opportunity to know the current situation of the church and each other through the pre-conclave congregations. Kung mabilis o mahaba, malalaman natin. Pero sana, para sa akin, sana ay hindi siya magtagal. Kasi marami rin tayong mga concerns sa simbahan na kailangan nating asikasuhin at kailangan magpatuloy ng simbahan.
Well, what we can do is really to take a look at what is certain, and that is the apostolic constitution that guides this conclave. Ano ba, Padre, yung apostolic constitution? Pag sinabi natin, pinag-usapan natin yan, is it the same in the secular world like the Philippine Constitution? Is there a body or body of law governing everything that is constant, and how can that be changed?
Okay. So yung Apostolic Constitution, well, considered siya na kumbaga solemnly promulgated or issued by the Pope in his own name. So, posible yung Constitution nagde-define niya ng church teaching or pwedeng ecclesiastical structure, pwedeng patungkol sa batas ng simbahan. So, yung difference niya doon sa, halimbawa, gamitin natin yung 1987 Constitution o saligang batas na tinatawag natin. Yung saligang batas natin sa Pilipinas, pamantayan ng struktura at kapangyarihan ng Estado o yung framework. Yung Apostolic Constitution naman ng simbahan, patungkol sa simbahan na sumasagot patungkol sa pananampalataya at disiplina o gawain ng simbahan. Halimbawa, patungkol yan sa sede vacante, paghala ng Santo Papa, yung Universi Dominici Gregis na Apostolic Constitution ni Pope Francis and ni Pope John Paul II.
Okay, so ito ay ito yung set of laws governing the conclave. But according to the Apostolic Constitution, there are 120 cardinals. Why is it that we have 132 electors going in there, or 133 going in there, more than the 120 required by the law?
Okay, so according sa declaration nung kay John Paul II na Apostolic Constitution, sa paragraph 33, inaalaw na 120 cardinals ang bumoto. However, and base rin yan doon sa nirelease na declaration ng College of Cardinals, Pope Francis dispensed this numerical limit by creating more than 120 cardinals under 80. And since sa same constitution din, sa paragraph 36, it gives a cardinal the right to elect the Roman Pontiff having been created as a cardinal. So makikita natin at mababasa natin doon na how do you say this? Dinispense ni Pope Francis yung numerical limit na 120. So, kaya yan. So, 135 pero actually yung boboto ay 133.
Okay, sa pagbabago ng mga rules na yan, does that power lie solely on the Pope?
Well, oo, patungkol diyan kung titingnan natin yung canon law, ang pontiff, ang supreme pontiff ang may kapangyarihan no patungkol sa batas at disiplina ng simbahan. Ngayon, ang tanong ay paano kapag wala namatay ang Santo Papa, no? Sino yung nagra-run, no? O may kapangyarihan patungkol sa mga ganyang bagay, no? Yung cardinal electors na patungkol sa mga bagay na maliliit na detalye, syempre at syempre sa basic government ng simbahan. Actually, nakalagay din doon sa Apostolic Constitution ni Pope John Paul II, na St. John Paul II. Kapag may mga ilang bagay na patungkol sa eleksyon by a majority opinion ng College of Cardinals ay pwedeng i-consider, no, para magkaroon ng clarification sa ibang mga bagay na medyo kailangan ng pagpapaliwanag.
And speaking of a majority vote, 2/3 vote is required to elect the next Holy See. How long can that go? If you take a look at the Constitution, pag sinabi nating 2/3 vote, can it go on and on? Ay posible itong umabot ng taon din. I mean, ayaw naman nating maging ganun, pero what is possible under the Constitution?
Well, kaya maganda mabasa yung Constitution, which is available, no, sa internet, no, para sa mga gustong basahin ito. Medyo marami nga lang mga pananalita tayo makikita doon. After 7 ballots at wala pa rin, no, na ma-elect, ay magkakaroon sila ng pause, no. Ang minimum nakalagay, ang minimum ay 1 day for prayer, for reflection, for meditation, patungkol doon sa nagiging resulta. Then after after the break, 7 ballots ulit. Then kapag wala ulit, no, ang mangyayari ay magkakaroon ulit sila ng pause. No, so yan ay para ma-enlighten din, no, yung mga kardinal para sa pagdedesisyon nila patungkol sa ano. So hopefully ay hindi naman magtagal katulad nung mga sabihin natin mga Middle Ages na umaabot ng gano'n na 2 taon, 3 taon, no. Siguro naman ay hindi makatwiran ang mga eminent cardinals natin na nandito ngayon sa Roma para sa conclave.
Ay, Padre, bilang panghuli, no, as we go into the conclave, I wanted to ask a personal question. To your point of view, what do you think are the values that the next pontiff should have with the challenges of the modern church? Kilala ninyo ang 3 kardinal, nakakausap nyo, nakakasalamuhan nyo. You have an idea of how it is in Rome. Ano ang kinakailangan ng susunod na Santo Papa?
Well, we need to have a good shepherd who has this heart of Jesus, no? True and faithful, kind and loyal, meek and lowly.
Very simply said. And bringing us back to the heart, of course, those were also values that Pope Francis embodied in his 12 years in the seat of Rome. But in the meantime, thank you so much for shedding light and bringing us clarity over the traditions of the Catholic Church. Thank you very much, Father Earl Tan of Pontificio Colegio Filipino, for joining us here on Morning Matters.
Thank you, Gretchen.
Don't go away. More matters to discuss right after the break. Keep it here on One News. Welcome back. You're watching Morning Matters here on One News. Moving on to secular matters, President Bongbong Marcos has ordered an investigation on alleged faulty bollards following the fatal ramming incident at NAIA. Here's the report.
President Bongbong Marcos has ordered a swift investigation into the bollards at NAIA Terminal 1. This is after a deadly vehicle crash that claimed 2 lives, including a 4-year-old girl over the weekend. The President directed the Department of Transportation to look into the procurement and installation of these bollards, which were put in place under the term of former Transportation Secretary Art Tugade. He also wants the bollards replaced for the safety of the public.
Pinaiimbestigahan na po paano po ang naging procurement pati yung specifications. Yung po ay sa pag-uutos po ng Pangulo at ito po itutugunan kaagad-agad ni Secretary Vince Dizon. At pati po ang pag-inspect sa mga bollards at ang mabilisang pagpapalit po dito para sa safety po ng nakakarami.
The President also called for the study of proposed mandatory drug testing for public utility vehicle drivers. Some drivers have expressed concerns that this may just be an added cost and could turn into a money-making scheme. But Castro clarified that this is not the intent and urged the public not to jump to conclusions.
Tandaan po natin ang inaalagaan po dito yung safety po ng commuters, ng mga tao na gumagamit ng kalsada, including na rin po yung mga drivers. So, pag-aaralan pa rin po ito at wag naman po agad nating husgahan na ito ay isang money-making device or strategy.
Meanwhile, House Assistant Majority Leader Zia Alonto Adyong called for a comprehensive review of traffic regulations and safety policies to prevent future accidents. He also raised concerns over the failure of bollards to protect passengers, particularly after the accident at NAIA Terminal 1. For her part, House Assistant Minority Leader Arlene Brosas said that a swift investigation is needed to hold accountable those responsible for the alleged defective installation.
Dapat din tingnan natin yung binibigay natin ng mga budget sa NAIA kung bakit umigay yung mga bollards. Supposedly itong bollards na to dapat iprotektahan nila yung mga pasahero eh. 'Di ba? Bakit bumigay? Substandard ba ito?
Mababaw ang bollard pero malalim ang issue ng korupsyon.
Now let's check the situation at the Manila Cathedral. Our mobile journalist Arles De Los Santos joins us live from there. Arles, kamusta ang sitwasyon dyan? Nagsimula na ba ang misa?
Gretchen, ilang minuto lamang ang nakalilipas mula ng idaos ng unang misa dito sa Manila Cathedral at ang estima natin sa mga dumalo dito ay humigit kumulang 100 katao mula sa iba't ibang panig ng Pilipinas. Mayroong mga nagmula sa Bulacan, sa Rizal, sa Laguna at Isabela, at ayan ay pinangunahan ni Father Viel Bautista mula dito sa Manila Cathedral.
Les, itong mga churchgoers natin ngayong araw na ito ay pumunta ba dyan specifically for the start of the conclave? Yan ba ang pakay nila na ipagdasal ang buong proseso at ang bagong Santo Papa?
Gretchen, sa ilang sa mga ating nakapanayam, sila raw talaga, meron tayo ilan na araw-araw talaga sila nagsisimba dito. At ayon din sa Manila Cathedral mismo, ang misa daw ngayong araw ay normal na kanilang isinasagawa mula Lunes hanggang Biyernes, kaibahan sa Saturday and Sunday Masses nila. Ayun nga lamang, kapansin-pansin kanina na sinimulan ni Father Bautista ang misa sa panalangin sa pagpili ng Santo Papa na ayon sa kanya ay hindi biro ang responsibilidad. Ito daw ay administrative, emotional at even in nature ay diplomatic.
Ano pang nabanggit niyang pagbabago dito sa mga misang ito? Kasi alam natin nung yumao na yung o namayapa na yung Santo Papa, tinanggal na yung pangalan ni Pope Francis. So would you have the specifics as to what they say in Mass to offer prayer specifically for the Holy See?
Sa ngayon, hindi yan nabigyan ng isang bahagi sa misa. Ang naging focus, Gretchen, ay ang panalangin na sana daw ang susunod na Santo Papa ay maging kasing husay, puno ng pagmamahal at malapit sa publiko kagaya ni Pope Francis, lalo na ngayon na ika-9 na araw mula ng kanyang pagpanaw na ngayong araw din ay sisimulan ang conclave sa Sistine Chapel sa Vatican.
Okay. Les, natanong mo ba yung ating mga kababayang Katoliko kung sino ang napupusuan nila na maging Santo Papa at anong palagay nila sa mga nababali-balitaan natin sa social media? Maraming kumakalat na impormasyon, na disinformation at iba pang mga tatawagin nating chismis.
Sa ngayon ay wala silang masyadong iniisip sa mga chismis na kumakalat sa social media dahil ayon sa kanila isang karangalan daw kung ang susunod na Santo Papa ay magmumula sa Pilipinas, lalo pa ang ating bansa ay isa sa may pinakamalaking populasyon ng mga Katoliko sa buong mundo. Ito daw ay karangalan, pero tanging ang Holy Spirit lamang daw o ang konsensya at kabutihan o paggabay ng simbahan ang makakapili ng karapat-dapat na Santo Papa.
Les, samahan mo kami dyan sa pagtitirik ng kandila para sa ating mga kardinal, pati na rin syempre sa Filipino cardinals. 3 cardinals, the biggest contingent yet from the Philippines, will be heading on over to the Sistine Chapel. At maraming salamat sa paghahatid ng latest mula dyan sa Manila Cathedral. That was mobile journalist Arles de los Santos. Let's move on over to sports. UST seeks to complete a Final Four upset over defending champion NU in UAAP Season 87 men's volleyball. The Golden Spikers forced a do-or-die after a 4-set win that ended their 4-game losing streak to the Bulldogs. Reigning MVP Josh Ibanez led the way with 22 points, while G-Boy De Vega added 14 in his first start since March. The match between UST and NU is set for Wednesday this afternoon at 2 p.m. at the Smart Araneta Coliseum. The winner advances to face top seed FEU in the finals. And that wraps up today's episode of Morning Matters. We hope we've given you the right start to your morning. Let's make the day matter. I'm Gretchen Hall. We are One News, all sides, all the time.